All right, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today we're going to begin Chapter 10. We're going to talk about drug use and abuse, and that's basically what we're going to talk about for the whole entire chapter. So let's get started today. Today we're going to begin with basically what are drugs or what is a drug. A drug is a substance other than food that changes the structure or function of the body or mind. Most teens decide to make the healthy decision and avoid drugs that are illegal. Unfortunately, some students don't, and it can be detrimental not only to their immediate health, but their health over the long term of their life and basically reaching their goals. Drug use can be very harmful to your health. Now, there are drugs that have uses, drugs that are actually useful in society as medicine. Medicines are drugs. Medicines prevent or cure illnesses or treat their symptoms. The problem is that these medicines, they're good for us if we use them properly. They can be very useful to us. But there are so many people that use them in a way that is not useful, and actually in a way that is illegal, and use them in ways that are not the appropriate use for them, so it can cause massive issues for people. Over-the-counter medicines are found on the shelves of local pharmacies and grocery stores where anyone can buy them. Prescription drugs can only be legally obtained with a doctor's written permission. So basically, an over-the-counter drug is one you can go and buy, say, at Walmart in the pharmacy or at any other pharmacy. And then more powerful drugs typically are prescription drugs that only a doctor can prescribe to you. Now, the thing is that you may think, okay, well, the prescription drug is more powerful. That's the reason that they give it to you, and that is true. That's the reason that only a doctor can prescribe it. But that being said, over-the-counter drugs are or can be dangerous as well if taken improperly. Now, drug use. You need to be careful about using all drugs, including the ones prescribed by your doctor. You know, one of the biggest epidemics right now are opioids, or the opiate epidemic, and these opioids, the way that most people have become addicted to them is because they were prescribed by a doctor to them at one point. Even helpful medicines and pain relievers found at your local drugstore can be harmful if they are used incorrectly or without the permission of your doctor. Some people combine different drugs using more than one at a time. Without a doctor's permission, this can be very dangerous. You know, Sudafed, which you used to be able to get over the counter, which you can't now because it's actually one of the main ingredients in making methamphetamines. You can get it, but you can only get so many amounts, so much of it. That combined with certain other drugs could actually kill a person. So that's why whenever you go to the doctor's office and they're looking you over and then they're going to prescribe something, they always ask you if you're taking something. If you're taking Advil, Tylenol, any of those things, it doesn't matter. You tell the doctor exactly what you're taking so they don't potentially give you something that might be harmful if mixed with something else. No drugs or medicine should ever be taken by anyone other than the person for whom they were prescribed. A prescription is specific for that person. That's why they weigh you when you go into the hospital. They want to see what the amount is that you're going to need. So they're going to actually prescribe it for you specifically, height, weight, age, all of those things. So do not ever take a medicine that's prescribed for somebody else. All right, drug misuse and abuse. When you hear the term drug abuse, you may think only of the use of illegal drugs. Many drugs are illegal for a good reason. They can be extremely harmful or addictive. You know, if a drug is illegal, it's because it has some quality that makes it dangerous. Whether it's dangerous to you or other people or whatever, there's something about it that makes it dangerous. So when it's illegal to take, there's a reason for that. Many drugs are illegal for good reason. They can be extremely harmful or addictive. Any drug could be misused or abused. Drug misuse means taking or using medicine in a way that is not intended. You know, so if somebody else has a prescription, they're like, oh, I've had this cough. Well, me too. Oh, well, here, take one of these, and they give you the prescription. That's misuse. Or, you know, even taking Advil where they say take 2 and you take 4. That's misuse. Any of those things, using it or taking it in a way that is not intended. This can also include taking too much or taking a medication prescribed for another person, like I just said. I just gave those 2 examples. Drug abuse is intentionally using drugs in a way that is unhealthful or illegal. When people take illegal drugs such as marijuana or heroin, they are abusing drugs. Those drugs are illegal. So when they're illegal to take and you take them, that's drug abuse. And when people use prescribed drugs for non-medical purposes, they are abusing drugs. These people who start off and they get the opioids that are prescribed to them by a doctor, but then now they're out fishing and trying to go from doctor to doctor to get them prescribed to them so they can get more. That's drug abuse. That's also addiction. Studies show less people are using illegal drugs, but more people are abusing legal drugs. So drugs that they started out by obtaining through a medical doctor, and now they're trying to get them illegally, that's what's starting to happen more. Even prescription medications are dangerous if taken by someone other than the person they were prescribed for. So what you're seeing now is you're starting to see this change where doctors just simply are no longer prescribing those medications in a lot of instances. Misusing or abusing any type of drug can damage your body and lead to allergic reactions, illness, or even death. Now, recognizing the risks. Serious illness and death are just 2 of the possible consequences of drug misuse and abuse. You know, you could have brain damage from it. You could die from it. So these are just a couple of the consequences, and they're much, much worse, because if you get caught using them and you get arrested, that goes on your record, and then you may never be able to get a job that you want or something along that. So the consequences of this are just, they're immense, and there's many, many of them. Risk to physical health. Drugs can do a lot of harm to the body. Drugs are especially dangerous for teens because their bodies are still growing and developing. I talked to you about this when we talked about the alcohol, that if you start taking something at a very young age while your body's still developing and while you're still in a developmental stage, it makes it much more likely for you to become an addict. The brain and nervous system don't work properly under the influence of drugs. Drugs can cause memory loss, seizures, coma, or even death. All of those things are possible. If a drug user drives while taking drugs, he or she is putting other people at risk too. It's just like driving drunk. Impaired driving, because you're not in your right mind. You don't know exactly what's going on. You can't see things properly. Now, drug addiction. Many drug users feel like they can't stop using drugs. A drug addiction is a deep dependency on a chemical substance that is very difficult and painful to quit. We talked about that person becomes addicted to drugs or something, they may go through what's called withdrawal. And it makes it very difficult for them to ever get off that drug. Most people who become, say, addicted to heroin, they die heroin addicts. They never get away from it. And in fact, once you're actually an addict, you're always an addict. You can never go near that substance again. A person who becomes addicted to drugs often has a hard time stopping his or her drug use. They will often need help from others because an addiction is considered a disease, and it would be very difficult to get out of. Now, risks to mental and emotional health. The consequences of drug abuse are very serious. Some people may use drugs to cope with uncomfortable feelings, which puts their mental and emotional health at risk. They're using the drugs to cope with issues that they already have, so they're not solving the issues, they're just masking it with drugs, and now, instead of just having this issue that they could get taken care of through counseling, they now have a drug addiction on top of it. Drug abuse weakens a person's ability to think and learn. Drug users often have low self-esteem and have trouble relating to others, and often suffer from depression, anxiety, and confusion. It really does, because just like alcohol, it fries brain cells, so it messes up people's ability to think cognitively and to come up with answers beyond what is just right in front of them. They often have low self-esteem, have trouble relating to others, and often suffer from depression, anxiety, and confusion. Some drug users think drugs can solve their problems, but they only mask the problems and make them worse, as well as create new problems. Same stories like alcohol. We've talked about this before. It is important to find a healthful way to deal with problems rather than using drugs. Drugs are going to do nothing but make things worse. All right, last part, risk to social health. Drug use can harm your relationships because drug users often have a difficult time dealing with others, including those closest to them. And a lot of people who become addicts, it doesn't matter. The drug owns the addict. So nothing will get in their way from getting the drug. Even their most loved individuals on earth, if they get between them and the drugs, they will remove those people. Drug use can change a person's personality and can cause mood swings and sometimes lead to violence. People on drugs often lose touch with their feelings and only think of his or her need for the drugs. It's because the drug, like I said, owns it. Your body, the addiction is actually your body believing that it needs it to survive. So your body will do what it has to do to get it. You may lose touch with their families and often don't respect or care for their families. A drug abuser's actions affect the whole family. You know, when somebody gets involved in this, it's not just that one person. It's not just the person who's the addict. It affects the whole entire family. Teens who abuse drugs can also lose their friends. Some will end their friendships and lie to cover up their addictions. And staying friends with people who are drug-free is a good way to build strong friendships. All right, that's the end of Chapter 10, Section 1. You got any questions, get a hold of me. Also, make sure you're doing the readings and getting the work done. Have a great day.